G'day, it's Jamie, and welcome to Where's My Yowie. Today, I'm reading an old newspaper report about a sea serpent sighting off Melville Island, Northern Territory, in 1916. So we'll get into it. This was published in the Sydney Morning Herald on Saturday, the 28th of April, 1934, titled Sea Serpents and Other Monsters, by Captain T.W. Arthur. That there are at present time wonderful and strange creatures in the ocean of the world is certain, and the one we have heard so much of late as the Loch Ness mystery is not to be turned down lightly as an optical illusion without further examination. There are records of many strange monsters having been seen in different parts of the world since early in the 18th century. Rare animals, even on land, have been found to exist in comparatively recent times, which were unknown previously. In 1868, the then only known specimen of the two-horned hairy-eared Indian rhinoceros was accidentally captured at Chittagong, India, in a district where collectors and naturalists had worked previously without even hearing of it, and who, 40 years ago, knew of the okapi, another land animal. If no evidence had come to my knowledge, I would for all time remember an incident of the reality and existence of some such sea monster, if I may use the term. It is not a name at all, but a general term, and in the following account, a very suitable one, there can be no suggestion that I was suffering from hallucination, as the monster was seen by a Mr. Ned Baxter, an old-time skipper of a Grimsby trawler, who actually spotted it before I did. I have been a keen naturalist and observer from my earliest years, and in my half a century spent at sea or connected with it, my travels have taken me from the Arctic to the Antarctic, as well as to almost every part in the world. During the period of the Great War, I was employed on the construction of new lighthouses at Darwin and Cape Don, Northern Territory, and having a holiday on the occasion of the King's birthday in June 1916, a party of 8 men, including myself, decided to sail over to Melville Island across the Dundas Strait, a distance of about 18 miles from our jetty, which is about 2.5 miles from Cape Don. We started about 3 p.m. on the Saturday afternoon in a 27-foot surf boat with a lug sail and long sweep oar for steering purposes. We also carried 4 spare oars in case of need, with rifles, ammunition, and a good supply of stores and fresh water. After leaving the bay, we got a steady breeze favourable to carry us over, doing about 4 knots against the strong tide part of the way. About 6:30 p.m, most of the men were laid out in the boat on thwarts and in the bottom of the boat. Baxter was sitting in the bow, keeping a lookout for a reef marked on our chart called the Elphinstone Reef, in latitude 11 degrees 10 degrees south and longitude 131.25 degrees east, about 5 miles distance from Cape Fleming, Melville Island, southeast point. Big head, snake-like body. I was steering with the long sweep oar when Baxter shouted out to me, "What's that just astern there?" I turned sharply, thinking it was rocks, when to my surprise, and not more than 30 feet from me, appeared a huge head about 6 feet out of the water, and with 5 or 6 large parts of its body in a straight line, with a division between each, reaching in all at least 40 feet. As it came nearer, I lifted the blade of my oar as high out of the water as I could and tried to hit it on the head, which by this time was only about a foot above the water. I missed hitting it, but felt a hard, sudden jerk on my oar blade, which nearly knocked me over the side. I grabbed the sheet of the sail, or I must have gone over. I looked round again, but could only see its wake away to the windward of our boat. I pulled in the oar and examined the blade, and found 4 teeth, 3 on one side and 1 on the other, broken off deeply into the ash oar. We extracted them from the oar and kept them as souvenirs, 2 of which are still in my possession. The tide was setting us fast on the above-mentioned reef, and we had to put out the oars and pull for all the men were worth to keep us from striking, and we wanted to land on Melville Island at Cape Fleming before dark. So, at the time, the extraordinary thing we had seen was not much discussed. Tired and worn out, we were all soon asleep on the beach, and after 3 days' terrible experience without water and adrift in a heavy sea, we eventually reached our starting point, more dead than alive. In fact, the biggest and strongest man in the party, named Milliken, only lasted a short time after we got back. He collapsed and died in front of his camp, and is buried at Cape Don. Milliken was one time a gymnastic instructor on the training ship John Murray at Melbourne. I have discussed the above affair with several professors of zoology and natural science, and have visited various museums of the United States of America, England and Germany, but have been unable to trace any specimen resembling the one that I saw with my own eyes on that trip across the Dundas Strait. Many learned men to whom I have spoken just explain it away. It might have been this, or it might have been that. But after more than half a century knocking around this world, mostly in its isolated parts, both sea and land, I am fully convinced that the sea has still some hitherto unknown creature of large size, and that the Loch Ness Monster is not like other mythical entities such as Davy Jones or the Flying Dutchman, pure or unadulterated myth. In a recent cable from Paris, it was noted that a mysterious deep-sea monster, 25 feet long, of a blue-grey colour, with 2 fins on its side and 1 on the back, with a small head and a neck 3 feet long belonging to a hitherto unknown genius, had been washed up on the beach near Cherbourg at a small place called Quercuville in the English Channel, 98 miles from Southampton and near Cape de la Hogue. The body was examined by scientists, and it will be interesting to watch developments in this case, as it may clear up 1 or 2 points in connection with sea monsters. The end. Oh, that's pretty amazing. That would have been pretty scary. So like they were rowing, sailing and rowing over to Melville Island, and Baxter was on the bow, and then he said, "What's that astern there?" And the guys looked up, the captains looked up, and there was a huge head about 6 feet out of the water. And he said there was 5 or 6 large parts of its body in a straight line with a division in between each, and it was about 40 feet long. And then he tried to hit it on its head with his oar, and he missed hitting it, but he felt a sudden jerk on the oar blade, and it nearly knocked him over the side. And then when he pulled the oar in, he found 4 teeth, 3 on one side and 1 on the other. And he's actually got 2 of these teeth, which I'd love to know what happened to these teeth, and wish they had taken them to a museum to get it examined. But that would have been scary as being in a 27-foot boat, and here's a 40-foot sea monster coming to attack you. All pretty interesting stuff. I'd love to have seen it. Okay, that's it for me. I'll get back to you all next time. Bye.